Okay, so sorry if there's wobbliness. I've got you situated on my table here at lovely semi-sunny Tampa, Florida. And what I'd like to do is give kind of a public service announcement. There's a very common, very well known, although not often practiced, notion that we are indeed what we eat. That the molecules that are coming in from our food, in our air, and our water, that are then replacing the molecules in our body that are lost in various ways, um, can recreate us in terms of our internal chemistry, of course, dictated by our genetics and our epigenetics. So you're, in a certain sense, a new person um, over the course of years, and that turnover depends on tissue type, etc. I think what often gets missed is just like with diet, we can choose what we eat, we can choose what we don't eat to a certain degree, eat organic, filter our water, stay away from polluted areas, choose the macronutrients, the fruit and vegetables that are in our diet, etc., etc. We also have the capacity to choose um, what comes into our minds, into our brains. And in the same way that you are what you eat, we are what we think based on what we feed in terms of thoughts and information from our brains. We have incredible ability to do this, more so than ever before in human history. That will be something that I can say again next week and next month and next year, of course. And the same goes for food. The ability to acquire foods from around the world, foods that didn't exist until recently, um, is something that's a function of modern society. And with the internet, where you can pick and choose in a virtual smorgasbord, an all you can eat buffet of information that is available to you in various shapes and forms. And the reason why I'm doing a video on this rather than writing an article, as I've done in the past. Sorry for the craziness with the dogs. Apparently we have an invader here, probably in the form of a delivery person. Um, is that information can be chosen by you. Um, and ultimately, you are the filter of said information. You may choose to rely upon authority. You may choose to rely upon research. You may choose to rely upon your intuition. Um, there are various ways of knowing, and I've covered this actually in an article on Elite FTS that you can look up under Scott Stevenson. But you are the penultimate decision maker as to what it is that you decide to incorporate into your thought process, become your belief, become your paradigm, become part of your worldview. It's completely and utterly up to you. So when you read something from someone who is of authority, we'll take this now down to the sort of the bodybuilding arena. You see something written by someone, or you hear something by someone who is of authority. Um, you have different ways of evaluating that, and some of those things will be logical processes, but those may also be balanced by an emotional or some sort of an unconscious desire as well. And of course, I'm not a psychologist. I play one on the internet, however. But an example of this might be, let's say, someone who has a particular cult of personality, and they might say something that runs counter to the dogma, counter to the notions that many other people would profess. But in the case of bodybuilding, because they have a tremendous physique, or they have a cult following, or they have a cult of personality which has in some way given them an emotional control over your decision-making processes. An individual like that can say something that runs counter to even your logic and convince you of it. In fact, something that's counter to logic, that's counter to reason, that's counter to the standard ideas, can even become more convincing because it has more flavor. That person can come across as being an innovator in some way, shape, or form, simply because of the way in which they in effect, an emotional response that overlaps with you hearing that information. It becomes a feel-good thing. It feels good to you to hear someone say something different than what you've already heard. And of course, there's definite reasons for thinking out of the box. But that's an example whereby you are ultimately someone who determines what it is that you take into your mind. And in this case, in a simplistic hypothetical situation, I think there's power in being able to recognize the impact that emotion and non-logical thought can have upon your ability to reason through various things. And this is why, for instance, in the scientific arena, and those who know me seem to, you must recognize that I sort of favor that, is that you can, the facts are substantiated. The data, that's what I mean by facts, are substantiated. And you can look at these things and sometimes even get raw data if you need to. You could contact those researchers and say, show me how it is that you know this and you think this, where these conclusions come from. It's not simply, this is what I think, this is what I say. So, again, the bottom line of this was just public service reminder, public service announcement, to the effect that your thoughts are a function of the information that you allow into your mind. So, clean thinking may even be a notion that we can get from this. We have clean eating, which can mean a million of different things for different people. It's sort of an undefinable, in that sense, an undefinable way of consuming nourishment for your body. And clean thinking is perhaps something that you might intuitively know how to do, but sometimes lose track of. So that in and of itself is something to ponder and think about. So you are what you think, and that is a function of the thoughts and information that you allow to enter into your mind. Thanks for listening.